Our next speaker is going to be Blye Faust, who comes from the class of '01. And it's a real pleasure to have her back today because she's told me that she really hasn't much been back between then and now. So we're especially delighted to have her back at the law school with us today. She's an alumna who's definitely taken some interesting career path turns. When she was a student here at UCLA Law, she also did dip her toes into the world of acting. She earned her degree and practiced law for some period of time, but then ended up deciding to get more involved in film production and focused on developing scripts and doing some of the heavy lifting of getting projects funded and filmed. And then a couple of years ago, she was one of the producers on the film that I think many of you have probably seen, Spotlight. An extraordinary film that, of course, won rather a wonderful reward, too, an Oscar for Best Picture. Now, yes, Blye, I think, did get to hang out with the likes of Michael Keaton and Mark Ruffalo and Rachel McAdams, although I'm sure she was thinking back to her first-year contracts classmates and just how they were equally cool. But more importantly, she and her colleagues worked to make a commercially and critically successful film that shed light on the tragic sexual abuse that affected so very many children, and also shed light on the importance of investigative reporting and the workings of a free and independent and, frankly, well-funded press. So I'm delighted to have her with us today. She'll be talking about Defying Deference. Welcome, Blye.
All right. Well, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this really inspiring and eclectic group. So as I started to think about what I might say today that would encapsulate the varied, as you pointed out, 15 years that have transpired since my time here at UCLA Law, I actually kept coming back to one word and concept, and that is the idea of deference of all things. So let's discuss the idea and its role in both my life and that of others. We can actually start with the definition of the word. So noun, 1, respectful submission or yielding to the judgment, opinion, will, etc. of another. 2, respectful or courteous regard. And if you want to use it in a sentence, in deference to his wishes. Now, I was raised to be a polite, courteous young woman, and while I don't think the actual word deference was used, really, if ever, in direct conversation with those holding some sort of advisory position in my life, it was certainly I had internalized, whether rightfully or wrongly. And so conversations about any major life-changing decisions might go something like this. Someone, you should go to a small liberal arts college. Me, okay. Someone, you should keep playing basketball in college. Me, okay. Someone, you should go to law school. Me, okay. Someone, you should go work for a big firm. Me, okay. And before I knew it, there I was at said big firm, which actually ended up being O'Melveny & Myers in Century City. And I was miserable. Don't get me wrong, had nothing to do with the firm and everything to do with me. And actually, to this day, some of my closest friends are my colleagues from that time. But I literally blurted out to my parents through this haze of tears one night, how did I get here? Nothing like deferring your way to the top, right? Yeah. Well, the good news for me was that I wasn't alone, and the bad news was that I wasn't alone. And it wouldn't be until I had the full Spotlight experience under my belt for me to fully appreciate this. As I can only now know, Spotlight is the ultimate study of the concept of deference and its stunning implication across countless lives. So let's go back to where that all began. After far too many calls like the one described above, I decided to take matters into my own hands for the first time in my life and stop looking to others to tell me what I would like out of my time here on this earth. And I announced to everyone that I'm going to be a producer. Just don't ask me what exactly that means. I eventually partnered with my now partner, Nicole Rocklin, and between the two of us, we have exactly 6 months of inside industry experience between us, and that's just from her time as an assistant at a production company. So you're not exactly what you would call insiders. We solicit some advice. People who know the business to us. You should do high concept commercial material. Us, okay. All right. So we end up heeding their advice and spend countless hours chasing the same projects that everybody else is chasing, waiting for that great stuff to miraculously appear and just show up on our desk. And we do manage to set up a few projects with studios and others, mostly comedies and overtly commercial thrillers, but it feels like a lot of spinning wheels and not a lot of satisfaction. Then along comes author David Misner. He has absolutely no Hollywood experience, but he tips us off to the Spotlight story. And he had written a case study for the Columbia Graduate School of Journalism on the subject. Not exactly a sexy pool that has a lot of agents and executives looking to jump into it. So we've got two young producers scrambling to keep their heads above water, now chasing a decidedly uncommercial story brought to us by a guy that no one has ever heard of. You might say if you knew anything about anything. Undeterred, though, we then meet with the journalists in Boston, and they express to us they can't believe anyone in their right mind would possibly be interested in their story as a movie, but knock them out, ladies, go for it. We somehow, thankfully, forget to defer, however, ignore them and carry on. We obtain their rights and start shopping the story around town to various writers, directors, producers, agents, and others, and the response is not altogether encouraging. You'll need to create a love story. Add a fictional storyline to pump up that thriller aspect. Ensembles are just too hard. You'll need to combine a few characters. No one wants to see a story about kids getting hurt. But we're pretty sure that we don't need these things to tell the story that we really want to tell. But it does give us pause because who the hell are we and what do we know? At the end of the day, we really have nothing to lose. So we forget to defer again and we forge forward. We eventually pair up with Tom McCarthy, who has never directed a movie for a studio at this point, and Josh Singer, who spent most of his career writing in television. But they thankfully see what we see and decide to ignore the chatter as well. The guys dive into the story behind the story. They spend countless days, weeks, months with the real reporters, survivors, and other influential people and characters in this labyrinthian tale. And we have this mountain of information that we're looking at. And the big question becomes, what does it all mean? What is the story that we are trying to tell out of all of this? Is it the story of the survivors, the reporters and their personal journey through all this? Is it about an institution run amok? About a city that let this happen? Where is the common thread? And we really struggle to pull out the essence of this story, looking for clues in the real lives and the moments of those involved. And eventually, that little word raises its head again, deference. Deference by the members of the clergy to those in rank above them, deference by parishioners to an institution that they assumed would protect them above all else, deference by members of society at large to this lofty institution that had spanned centuries and continents, deference by the globe to one of its institutional brethren in a city who looked to both for guidance, truth, and wisdom, and deference by all to a legal system that had always done things in the way that it had. So there it was. It was that glowing, burning word that ended up wreaking so much havoc across so many countless lives in ways far more devastating than my own personal little drama. So let's take a look at this clip from the film that I think really sums it up, and then all of us as turnies, I think, will especially appreciate.
Did everyone read Eileen McNamara's column this weekend?
That's the Gigan case?
Yeah. What's the follow on that?
It's a column. What kind of follow are you thinking?
Well, apparently this priest molested kids in 6 different parishes over the last 30 years, and the attorney for victims, Mr.
Caribbean.
Thanks. I think Mr. Caribbean says Cardinal Law found out about it 15 years ago and did nothing.
Yeah, I think that attorney's a bit of a crank, and the church dismissed the claim.
He said, she said.
Whether Mr. Garrett-Egan is a crank or not, he says he has documents that prove the Cardinal knew.
Now, as I understand it, those documents are under seal.
Okay, but the fact remains a Boston priest abused 80 kids. We have a lawyer who says he can prove Law knew about it, and we've written all of 2 stories in the last 6 months. This strikes me as an essential story to a local paper. I think at the very least, we have to go through those documents.
How would you like to do that?
Oh, I don't know what the laws are here, but in Florida, we go to court.
You want to sue the church?
Technically, we wouldn't sue the church. We file a motion to lift the seal on those documents.
The church will read that as us suing them. So will everybody else.
Good to know.
Cut off, yeah. And that was all it took, literally. I mean, the first day on the job, and Miami transplant, Marty Barron, later described in the film as an unmarried man of the Jewish faith who hates baseball, comes in and asks the question that no one else had thought to ask because they assumed that it was the way that it had to be because it was the way that it always had been. So coming back full circle, I found myself asking, how do we avoid the deference trap in our lives and others? And I dove back to the word itself, wondering if there were what some antonyms for it might look like. And there are a number that wouldn't solve anyone's problems, such as disrespect, discourtesy, disregard, rudeness, disdain, dishonor, ignorance, neglect, thoughtlessness, and others. But then there are the following that, when handled appropriately, resonate. Noncompliance, contrariness, recalcitrance, rebelliousness, defiance. And as I looked at these words more closely and thought about our own journey with Spotlight and beyond, I realized that these are outsider words. Words that can be used to describe any number of us involved in Spotlight, from the members of The Real Story and the Spotlight team, Marty Barron, and to the members of our team, our production team who made the film possible. And so I would like to posit to you, us all, as I now do to myself on a daily basis, that we all make an effort to be outsiders in our own lives from time to time. And whether that be in our work or our personal lives, let's make a conscious effort to defy deference. And we may not need to shake things up every time, but let's not miss the opportunity to at least take the chance. You just never know what actually might be there on the other side. So, thank you all.